need to put on your big boy britches, big girl britches, and you need to talk to that adult like they are an adult, because you are adults.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Allie Mack and I am a teacher, and I'm here to help you along your journey of becoming a teacher or while you are in the journey of being a teacher. In previous videos, I have told you guys that you need to document everything. And you might be thinking, Allie, that is kind of a big, broad topic. What do you mean everything? So I have broken it down to 15 things you need to document at minimum if you are a teacher. So if you're interested in what these 15 things are, please keep watching. The first thing you need to document is absentees and tardies. So number one, you need to document anytime a child is absent or anytime a child is late to your class. So the second thing you need to document is the makeup work you give to students that have missed your class for any reason. I usually just let them sign for it. That way, if anyone says, oh, well, they were absent these days, you can say, oh no, they got their makeup work. Number three, you need to document all your parent contacts. So this is if you call them on the phone, if you send them a letter, if you set up a parent conference and you meet with them face to face, if you send a postcard, if you do talking points or any of those little apps like Remind 101 that gives you direct contact with the parent without them having your phone number, you need to document all of that. And the best way to handle this is to document as you go, because sometimes you will forget the details of whatever it is you talked about. Number four, you need to document every time you get progress reports or report cards back from your students, and the ones that do not return those, you need to make the correct contacts with those parents. Now, some districts are not as strict on this as others, but I always do this just for my own personal sake. That way, at the end of the year, parents can say, no one told me that my child was failing. It just covers your bases, that's it. The next thing you need to document is evidence of student growth, whether you give a pre-test and a post-test before every unit, the exit tickets at the end of the class period whenever you figure out the haves and the have-nots, any kind of assessment where you can show student growth. I know some schools use AR and STAR math. Some of them use iReady, but basically you need to be able to cover your bases and be able to prove that the majority of your students are growing in your class. The next thing you need to document is every single classroom disruption. If a student does something, breaks one of your rules, you need to document that. And I have on my website, hotforteaching.weebly.com, a nice little template on you to add your names, and it has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you can document anytime a child breaks your rule. And also you need to document the consequences that you give the child. And you might want to keep the receipts, such as if you have like a student detention and they do the detention and they sign for it and the parent signs for it, you need to keep all of those as well. This will come in handy later if you have a huge problem with the child or you want to send the child down with an office referral. That way you've covered all your bases and the parent can see that you provided lots of interventions to support their kid, but those interventions just were not working. Another thing you need to document is all of the children that are exceeding your expectations. These are the ones that do well on all your assessments, the ones that have really good manners, the ones that are very polite and respectful. You need to document these things as well because you want to give awards and rewards to these students as needed. Another thing you need to document, you write this in your lesson plans, any child you have that has an IEP or an individual education plan, or any child that has a 504, or any kid that's, say, an ELL student, any of those children that have accommodations, you need to document this in your lesson plans and how you will accommodate them in your lesson. This is super duper important because a lot of those documents are legal. Actually, let me say that again. All of those documents that I just mentioned are legal documents and need to be followed with fidelity. So you need to make sure you document this. If anything, it covers your bases, it covers you, and it another thing you need to document in your lesson plans is the standard or standards you are teaching. You are required to cover those standards with fidelity throughout the school year, and you need to have that documented so no one can say you're not doing your job as far as teaching what you're supposed to be teaching. You need to document any time children do not turn in homework or classwork. So later on, if say they are not passing your class, you can say, well, so-and-so did not turn in 8 homework assignments, and this is meant to help them practice. So of course he's failing my test, or whatever. So basically, you need to document the kids that are not turning in their work. Another thing that is very, very important that you need to document is students that are failing your class and interventions you have provided for them. So say they're failing and you tell the parent they're failing. A lot of times the parent will come back at you and say, well, what are you doing to help my child? So you need to, if you are going to fail a child, you definitely need to have worked with that kid and provided other support for that child other than just what you're giving everybody else. You need to definitely document all the things you're doing to help the children that are failing your class. And at progress report time, you need to call these parents before they get that progress report. That way, they will know their child is failing before they see it and they come up to the school mad. And I'm gonna get into more on this whenever I make my video on parent contacts, but basically, if you call them and tell them their child is failing, it's best to start off with saying, I've been working with your child on X, Y, and Z. They're still not passing. However, this is the halfway point, and if we put in extra support here and extra support there, maybe we can get your child's grade up to passing. So that way the parent knows you're on their side, you're on their kid's side, and they're gonna be more willing to work with you in the future. Another thing you need to document, and I have not experienced this often, but anytime you have a negative interaction with another teacher, staff member, or somebody that works at your school that is an adult, you need to not necessarily do anything with this documentation, but you need to document any negative interactions, how you handled it, and what the outcome was. This could save you later, or you might not need it. You might be able to throw it away at the end of the year, but always document negative interactions you have with your colleague. Now, for brand new teachers, say you are in your classroom and there's another person working with you. Maybe it's your inclusion teacher, maybe it's the teacher across the hall. What if they get onto you or you guys get in a little bit of a scuffle? Please do not go and tell your administrator on that teacher or your coworker. Please don't do that, okay? You need to put on your big boy britches, big girl britches, and you need to talk to that adult like they are an adult, because you are adults. And you need to tell them what the problem is, tell them that you feel like you could work with them, but we need to work this out, or whatever. I hate confronting people really much. Like, I hate it more than almost anything. The only thing that I hate confronting people more than is to go and tell on somebody. So please don't go tattle to your boss unless it's something serious, like you see your coworker hurting a child or speaking to a child in a very unprofessional manner, such as cursing or anything like that. Please don't go tattle. If it's something minor that you as adults can work out, you need to talk to that adult like a professional. If nothing comes from that, then you can go talk to your boss and administrator, okay? Please do that for me, all right? Another thing you need to document, if you notice something is off with one of your students, maybe they're unclean, maybe they have bruises or scars, or maybe they are hurt often and they have any kind of physical injuries, you need to be mindful of this. Now also keep in mind that children do play and they do roughhouse and they do get bruises and bumps, but if it's frequent and it is all the time, you need to be very mindful of this, because if so, it could be something like abuse. But you need to document this to see if you notice a pattern, okay? Because this could come in handy later. I would also like to add that if you overhear a child telling their friends, or they tell you that someone is harming them, you have got to report it. There's no documenting here. You have got to report it to your administrator or school counselor. You need to tell them, because as a teacher, you are a mandated reporter, which means you have to report abuse within 24 hours. So don't document, go to the administrator or counselor ASAP, all right? Do that. Thank you. I have actually had to talk to Child Protective Services, and the questions they've asked me have been stuff like, have you noticed the kid has been unhappy? Did they tell you anything about it? Did you notice crazy bruises or marks or anything like that? So, and at the time I was thinking, well, I didn't pay attention to any of that crap. But now I know that I need to. So that's why I'm adding it to one of the things you need to document. If you notice a kid has crazy bruises or anything like that, document it. It might come in handy later. Another thing you need to document is if you notice a kid is not understanding your lesson. So whether you're walking around, you have a checklist for observations, you see a child is struggling with a problem or a concept, make a note of it. If, say, you decide to go the exit ticket route and you divide them in the haves and the have-nots, document the have-nots, and then the following day, document what you did to help that child understand that skill. This will cover your behind later, I promise. The last thing you need to document is anytime you have a faculty meeting, a PLC meeting, a department meeting, any meeting related to your job, you need to document it. Whether it be just quickly jot down things that they talk about, you keep the handouts they give you when you get there, you need to have documentation. That way if there was ever a question of what was said in that meeting, you have record of it. Or if someone tries to say you weren't there, you're like, excuse me, here's my minutes, got it, okay. So I hope you found this list of 50 things you need to document helpful. I am putting a bunch of resources on my website. That's hotforteaching.weebly.com. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I'll link those down in the description below. All right, that's it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an amazing day.
Don't go and tattle on your coworkers without giving them the chance to do it. What are they gonna do? Hey, there's
Watch a lot of Dr. Phil, and he says that they would much rather investigate 1,000, how does he say it? 1,000 knots or 1,000 not being abused than to miss one child that is. Knowing Dr. Phil, he said something way better than that, but whatever. The last thing you need to document on this list, it's windy. The last thing you need to document on this list, do you remember what the last thing was, baby?
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, sweetie pie. I love you. I love you, baby. The last thing you need to document is anytime you have a faculty meeting, a PLC meeting, a department meeting, any meeting that is school related or your job related, you need to document. Okay, I know I can't dance, I'm sorry.